Hi guys, it's Shelda and welcome to a new little series that I'm doing called The Brain and the Game? I haven't really decided on the title. I'm a psychologist and a huge gamer. Found it.
Dead.
Oh, you fucking...
So for me it was a no-brainer to kind of incorporate the two into a project that I could really sink my teeth into. Just a quick trigger warning, I will be discussing mental health difficulties in this video such as anxiety and depression. So if you find that uncomfortable to watch or listen to, please feel free to click off and go and watch one of my other videos because, you know, they're also pretty cool. So, you know, go and do that. Today's video, we're going to be exploring the world of gaming when you have anxiety or depression. What can the relationship look like between mental health and video games? Is gaming a proactive tool for episodes of high stress and low mood, or can it make things worse? Let's get some bite-sized definitions out of the way. Anxiety is an innate response that we all experience from time to time, usually arising when our little amygdala in the limbic system, not that amygdala, or animal brain detects a threat in the environment.
Easy, Sumo. I'm your friend.
Sends out a signal, and this in turn causes its neighbor, the hypothalamus, to send out a distress signal to our sympathetic nervous system. That system is responsible for flooding your bloodstream with stress hormones to help you survive the threat. Your heart starts racing, your palms begin to sweat, your digestive system shuts down, and that's all for the blood to be rerouted to your vital organs and your muscles. Lev in The Last of Us 2 actually spoke about the sympathetic nervous system response really beautifully.
Just think about the good parts too. You run faster, you're more focused, you don't feel pain as much. Your palms sweating, your heart racing, the body is getting ready for what's coming.
For some, our animal brain can be overactive, meaning we experience fear and panic responses more frequently, or that we are in a constant state of responding to a threat even though there isn't one. So what about depression? I have to preface and say that I have not suffered with depression before. I am just an anxiety queen. So a lot of what I'm about to tell you is from clinical knowledge and loved ones sharing their experiences. Everyone experiences low mood from time to time. But according to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, a diagnosis of depression may be most appropriate when an individual is experiencing 5 or more symptoms of depression for 2 weeks or more, with at least one symptom being depressed mood or lack of interest and pleasure in daily activities.
Snowball, how long have we all been asleep? No!
The serotonin hypothesis was one theory as to what happens within the brain when someone has depression. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter and is believed to act as a mood stabilizer, which is passed between the synapses of your neurons. In the dungeon crawler game Hades, you progress through rooms. As a reward for successfully passing through each room, Zagreus is gifted a boon by the gods which acts as a power-up. Think of neurons as Zagreus and the gods in Hades, the serotonin as the boons they give him, and the synapse as the room that they give him the boons in. Does that make sense? In depression, it was originally hypothesized that there was an imbalance of mood stabilizing neurotransmitters like serotonin. But recently, new research by UCL found a lack of link between serotonin and depression. So thanks, Shelda, for the mini psychology lesson.
Welcome to Bullworth Academy.
What does that have to do with my beloved gaming? Well, as someone with an anxiety disorder who games, it got me thinking. Not everyone that games has anxiety or depression, but a big chunk of gamers do, and I want to know why. I actually did a Q&A and a poll on my Instagram about your experiences with mental health in gaming, and I got some really interesting replies. Some of the themes that popped up were escapism, avoiding rumination, a direct source of happiness. Gaming seems to be a proactive tool for those with mental health issues to transport themselves away from their symptomology. When I started experiencing my first OCD symptoms at 9 years old, I threw myself into gaming. Animal Crossing Wild World was like my go-to. I literally get goosebumps when I hear this. I think I also carried that nostalgia forward during lockdown anxiety on New Horizons, so thank you, Nintendo! Research also supports that gaming can help mitigate anxiety and depression symptoms on a neurological level. Gaming is a huge trigger for another neurotransmitter called dopamine, and your brain loves dopamine.
Time is flying, and I am too. Whoa, what a rush!
Dopamine is vital for our brain's pleasure and reward system. It is released during hyperarousal, along with your other stress hormones like adrenaline. In other words, when you're playing games that are competitive, high stakes, or scary, and you're experiencing that adrenaline rush, your brain is also flooded with dopamine, which is why the rush is so addictive. Here's some clips of me getting some dopamine rushes.
Wow.
I did it!
I'm actually so...
Yeah!
I actually can't believe you did that first try.
Oh my god, I fucking did it. Oh my fucking god. Oh.
What's the matter?
Oh my god, we did it! Fuck yeah!
So would someone with anxiety who already experiences frequent fight or flight responses play high pressure or competitive video games? Probably. I do. I had one response saying that competitive games was a way for them to release the stress. It was basically an outlet. Dopamine is also related to learning, memory, and motivation, and RPGs like Pokemon and Final Fantasy have been found to encourage goal achievement and facilitate the regulation of emotions. So we could hypothesize that RPGs may help stimulate functions that are usually negatively impacted by depression. A study, now listen very carefully friends, a study found that their sample of gamers scored higher on measurements including self-awareness, positive mental health, and social functioning than their non-gamer sample. So is this why a huge chunk of gamers are able to identify if they have anxiety and depression? But at least we know the next time someone calls you a nerd, you're not just a nerd, you can say you're a nerd with feelings.
The neural web isn't isolating your motor neurons. It could be affecting other parts of your brain, your inhibitions, your mood. I just think we need some more tests. We've got enough! But this could permanently damage your mind. Please.
Would this really be a psychology video though if we didn't do some critical thinking? I mean, I hate to ruin the LAN party. Mental health in gaming is also complicated and the relationship can be detrimental. I mean, I look at 1 year during my teens where my anxiety disorder was particularly bad and I racked up 1,160 hours on GTA Online. I cringe too, don't worry. A variety of studies have also showed that if you have anxiety and depression, you are more likely to become addicted to video games, sacrificing sleep, developing a poor diet, and losing motivation. So we are really scoring in that genetics department. Let's focus on anxiety in gaming, specifically social anxiety or social phobia. Internet gaming may facilitate an individual's social anxiety, as it can allow an individual to fulfill the social desires that they struggle to fulfill in person. Let's take Max from Life is Strange, for example, who is theorized to have some form of social anxiety. Max excessively worries about her social interactions and how she appears to others. I mean, you could even interpret that her powers to rewind time reflect her phobia. Did I do the right thing? Should I have said this? What could I have done differently? Now, let's say Max becomes a heavy gamer, and it helps her escape her feelings of anxiety, and she finds that it is easier to connect with others online than with people in school. Max stops engaging with others in person, which contributes to her social anxiety even more, then spends more time gaming in order to escape those symptoms. So you can kind of see how both her anxiety and her gaming habits may influence one another. And what about depression? Unfortunately, the research on depression and pathological gaming is extensive, and competitive gaming is by far the worst offender at contributing to unhealthy behaviors that may encourage or facilitate depressive symptomology. A systemic review compiled a bunch of research on the physical and mental well-being of competitive esports players. The excessive play and the competitive nature of their career led to high levels of depression, social anxiety, sleep disturbances, and gaming addiction among them. Of course, most of us aren't esports players. Oh my god. I mean, I could be. So we don't eat, breathe, and sleep gaming. However, it is just another important note to make that competitive gaming has a real physiological effect, constantly inducing the fight or flight response. I don't think it's totally healthy for the brain.
Oh my god. You just spin around.
So I promised that I didn't make this video to scare you away from gaming. I wanted to talk about the ways that you can keep your gaming habits healthy. Ask yourself, how did your anxiety and depression interact with the way that you game? Just make a note of the next time you're struggling. Do you find gaming is proactive and aids you in your recuperation? Or do you find that you tend to lean into it to not face your symptoms? Think about the types of games and how they make you feel. Sometimes when I was already anxious and I tried to jump on Apex or something, it would just make my mood so much worse and I wouldn't even have a good time. I would just become angry at things really easily and come off worse than I already was. So if you have mental health difficulties and you're having a rough time, or even if you're not having a rough time, make sure you're taking breaks from competitive gaming. Delve into the backlog of single player games that I know you have, because everyone's got the backlog. Some of you might only play competitive games and that's okay, but why don't you branch out, try something new? I would love to see this hardcore COD gamer picking up Animal Crossing. I would really love to see there's a difference in how they feel. There are a bunch of games and game genres that are really good for mental health, and I would love to do a video on that, so maybe I will actually compile a list. Strategy and civ games, even easygoing looters and shooters like Borderlands. I love Borderlands. When you're low and anxious, it's very easy to disengage with other activities. Although gaming is an escape, it's not a permanent one. Make sure you're in touch with a professional if you're struggling, as they can help you navigate your journey with your mental health. And if you've watched this video and you have identified with anything that I've said, try not to self-diagnose, because getting a professional opinion is really important. But do, and I really encourage you to contact your local mental health services in order to raise any concerns that you have. There is absolutely no shame in seeking help. See it as you practicing your higher gamer emotional intelligence.